big money moves is what the Tigers are looking for this pre-season, as we have a few more rumoured interactions between Ajun and various other players from clubs, including Oli McBurnie and Matija Frigan. So let's go into it in today's Hull City news breakdown. So first of all, start off with not necessarily some transfer news, but some big news that will be affecting the Tigers this upcoming season, and that being a bit of a rule change in the Championship, as the goalkeeper situation is going to change. So there's a major rule change impacting from minute one. It's already being involved in the under 21s Euros internationally, and the first game of that campaign has already started with the rule being implemented. I don't think it's actually been taken into effect yet, but it is there, and that being that the goalkeepers now will have only 8 seconds to hold onto the ball before releasing it. Yes, we know about the 6-second rule and never getting enforced. Well, apparently they are going to be a bit more stricter on this. 8 seconds is all the goalkeepers have to hold onto the ball, and instead of being awarded an indirect free kick if the rule is taken into account, it will be a corner to the opposing team now. So we'll wait and see if that rule does get implemented and is strongly affected, as they are suggesting it will be at the moment. But if a goalkeeper holds onto a ball for longer than 8 seconds, then a corner kick will be awarded to the opposing team. So this could be a bit of a interesting factor into how it plays out for some teams, certainly for teams that like to play out from the back. I mean, Hull City, past seasons, it would have affected us massively. Who knows under Sergei how this will affect his style of play. Of course, 8 seconds is a decent chunk of time. You can get really what you want to do. Whether it'll affect an attacking position from this, attackers maybe a bit more prominent, a bit more aggressively going towards the opposing keeper. Who knows? I suppose that this will have a bit of a knock-on effect depending on how majorly it is impacted upon the teams. So, a bit of upsetting news, and that being Hull City have apparently missed out on the signing of Uchenna Ogundu, of course the 19-year-old Nigerian striker that I was talking about this past sort of week. Hull City were seeming interested into signing him, a big promising 19-year-old striker that has had some brilliant numbers and some brilliant performances this past season. It does sound like he will be going instead to Alanyaspor over in Turkey. So I mean, there is of course a link there between us and him. But 19-year-old signing to a club who probably will be there for a few years, unless he does get a big money move away to a side in the Premier League or a top 5 league in Europe. So yeah, sounds like we missed out on a young one there. Unfortunate, but things happen like this all the time throughout the transfer window. So let's go first of all into Oli McBurnie before we go on to big news of big money Frigan. Okay, so Oli McBurnie, a central midfielder that we have known about because he's been in the Championship for a few seasons now. Of course, I believe he's officially on the books at Nottingham Forest. Last season, he did play 16 matches for Swansea City. He's also played for Middlesbrough and gone out to the MLS, I believe, a few times over the past numbers of seasons. Only 26 years old as a central midfielder, who is currently at Nottingham Forest waiting for a decision there. It's unlikely that it'll be a permanent move if it does a move does fully materialise to Hull City, considering that he is out of contract next season. It would be a big situation, his sort of loan move at the moment, because whoever he loans out to, well, they'll probably have the best swing at signing him on the free transfer once he leaves Nottingham Forest next season. As I say, he was at Swansea City last season on a loan deal from the January transfer window up until the end of the season. Before that, he was over at LAFC, Middlesbrough, DC United, and of course he's been at Forest throughout that. Last season, only contributing with 1 goal in them 16 appearances for Swansea City. I mean, it's a central midfielder, maybe looking for a little bit more attacking know-how, but if he's going to hold down in that midfield slot, you won't mind it too much. Yes, I have talked about this in the video that we posted out on Friday about where Hull City need to go to be a bit more of a competitive team this upcoming season. And I said, well, the midfield slot seems to be pretty much nailed down, but a lone player... Of some sort of caliber like Lewis O'Brien, well, you're not really going to say no to it, are you? Because worst case scenario, he's on your books. If it doesn't work out, you can most likely try and get him back towards Nottingham Forest in January, or if not earlier. Of course, loan deals you don't really have a full tie down to unless sort of there is a bit of a niggling in the contract. But Lewis O'Brien sounds like a decent one for Hull City. We have been on the cards to try and sign him for the past few seasons. Apparently this season we do feel like we have the best chance of grabbing him. Some other teams may be interested in him on a loan or permanent, but Hull City will most likely try and get him on a loan deal with pretty much no option of getting him on a permanent. It would be a big deal for Hull City. So we will wait and see on that one. Well, a bit more news on Oli McBurnie. Of course, Oli McBurnie, the ongoing transfer this summer transfer window, as Hull City are looking to try and get him in on a permanent deal. Oli McBurnie, of course, would be a little bit more of a expensive signing for Hull City. Not so much within the transfer fee, as he could possibly be joined on a free transfer, or not too much of a transfer fee. But Oli McBurnie would probably have high wage value, so his wage weekly would be quite high. But of course, we can make room for that, as there is a few fringe players that have got some high sort of wages on them that are most likely going to get moved on. Anthony Rashiopi, Marvin Malem, Abdul Shamir and Ryan Giles, just to name a few. Of course, Abdul Shamir, we've talked about, he's pretty much ready to go back to Turkey. I think he might even have his bags packed to go back to Turkey, as there is a number of clubs interested in him over there, and he seems pretty much happy to go back there. We're not really too sure on what is happening with Anthony Rashiopi and Marvin Malem. Of course, both of them spending the second half of last season out on loan. I mean, all four of these players did, but them two we haven't really heard too much about. Ryan Giles, of course, probably not going to go back to Middlesbrough, considering that his avenue there has been pretty much blocked off with the sacking of... Michael Carrick at Teesside, so he's probably not going back there. Apparently there has been a little bit of interest in Ryan Giles this summer, nothing fully concrete, so we'll wait and see on that one what the future is with Ryan Giles. Of course, Hull City looking for a target at left back, and apparently do have someone in their sights, so we'll wait and see on that front what the future is there. But some big wages are going to be cleared up, along with some of the players like Matty Jacob, who could possibly be going out on a permanent, and some other players, as we have mentioned, that will possibly be leaving the squad before the start of the season. So Oli McBurnie, although it would be a big wage one, whether he can contribute like he did a couple of seasons ago for Swansea, we grabbed I think like 22 goals or something for them in the 2018-2019 campaign. Well, that would be a big boost to this City squad at the moment, where we have really only one striker, don't we, in Kyle Joseph. So a big signing that would be if Oli McBurnie does come over. So a little bit of funky news, we'll say. Not really Hull City related, although it could become Hull City related if something doesn't happen within the next 7 days. And that being Sheffield Wednesday. Of course, we do know there's a bit of a problem going on with Sheffield Wednesday, and they're not paying players. I think they're going to be under a transfer embargo, or I saw somewhere that they're going to be under a transfer embargo, or they could be. Well, this has been just reported. It's now been 24 days since Sheffield Wednesday players were due to be paid. They haven't. In another 7 days, they'll be due another month's wages. Any players who aren't fully paid for either month will be able to walk away from their contracts with 2 weeks' notice. So any of the Sheffield Wednesday players that do not get paid for either of the months in full can walk away from the club and go out onto the free transfer market. Of course, this does play until City. We're playing against Sheffield Wednesday next season, and also then players do become available to us if they decide to walk away, if they don't get if they don't get paid. So it'll be a very interesting next week for Sheffield Wednesday. Of course, we do know they're in a bit of financial trouble at the moment, something to do with their own. I'm not fully sure on the details, but thought it's been a bit of interesting news there for Hull City, and of course the Championship as a wider landscape. So let's talk about Matija Frigan, of course, the Croatian striker, who could be on the cards to rejoin his former boss in Sergei. Of course, Sergei was the manager at Rijeka when Frigan came through their academy and came through the ranks there. And it's sounding like there is a possibility of a reunion between both parties. Hull City aren't the only ones interested in Matija. Of course, he's currently at KVC Westerlo, but also Rangers and Hamburg and a couple of other squads are seeming to be interested in him. The transfer fee is possibly in the region of about 10 million euros. So it's not a complete walk in the park, this one. There's certainly some stakes surrounding it. But his stats last season in the Belgian Pro League, well, they come with themselves. 39 matches, 13 goals, 2 assists across the full season there for KVC Westerlo. Very, very high promising player. Only 22 years old as well. So young, played an extensive amount in Croatian's national youth rankings. And he's going to be a brilliant attacker for quite a few years to come. 22 years old, still young, and could do something quite majorly for Hull City's attack, which is very lacklustre at the moment, was very lacklustre last season, and something really needs to change around that. Of course, who knows which side will pick him up? Of course, Rangers and Hamburg, they are maybe the more attractive sides, but it's what he wants from it. If he wants to come and play under Sergei again, he will do that. It's really the ball's in his court where he goes. Of course, who's paying the money for this? Ajun. Well, Ajun has made contact with all parties involved, Frigan and also the KVC Westerlo directors and stuff. So there has been contact made. I don't believe a proposed deal has been made from Hull City's camp to him. Of course, he is under contract until 2028, so certainly a chunk of time, which maybe feed into the fact that he's current transfer market value is around 7.5 million, but the regions that I've been seeing, numbers being thrown around that I've been seeing, it's around 10 million. So we will wait and see on that one. What really happens, but he came through the youth ranks at Rijeka, of course, then played under Sergei there, went over to KVC Westerlo just a couple of years ago, ready for the 2023-24 season, and has been there since, producing quite nicely. As I say, last season, 9 goals in the league, and then 4 in the playoffs across them 39 starts, 39 appearances, sorry. So very, very good. He's a very good player. He's someone that Hull City really want to be picking up. If you're going to make a big money move for any striker, this is probably one of them. A player that most is sounding like he wants to come and play for us. There's a prior link between him and our new manager, which sometimes works well, sometimes doesn't. And yeah, it's sounding like it could be a very promising one. Whether it will happen, who knows? Of course, the Belgian Pro League, I believe their season starts a little bit earlier than ours. Theirs starts at sort of back end of July, mid to late July. So he could be ramping up his pre-season fairly soon, so could be very, very good, very ready for the switch across to Hull City. So we'll wait on that one. So we'll keep saying all of that surrounding Hull City, as there is plenty more transfer news, I'm sure, coming throughout the week. Of course, on Thursday we do get the fixtures released, so we'll know who we're facing opening day, last day, and every game in between. So make sure you stay tuned on the channel for all of that, plus all of the Hull City transfer news, plus anything else surrounding Hull City, as we are cracking along, ready, going towards pre-season. We have a few pre-season fixtures announced already, but who knows? Could be some more on the cards to come. So make sure you stay tuned on the channel by liking and subscribing, and I will see you in the next video. Up the Tigers!